I'm going to talk about being molested during my childhood and going through some trials with my family because of that. My name is Tanya. I am 54. I'm from Dallas. I'm on social media as Ranko Beauty, and I'm an influencer.
Just to provide some context to get in deeper into this topic, tell us a little bit more about, your family growing up, and what years are we talking about here?
So I am 54, so I was born in 1968. I have 4 brothers and 4 sisters. My mom had 4 girls and 4 boys. I have a stepsister, which makes it 9 of us. And, always include my stepsister because I basically grew up with her, so she's just as close to me as my blood sisters, so to speak. We all grew up in a house together, 4 girls and 4 boys in a house together. Not a very big house, 3 bedrooms, 1 bath. I am the oldest girl, and I have an older brother. Of the 8 children, I'm the second oldest. The stepsister is not my mom's child. She is the child of my stepdad, who I am going to be talking about in this video.
You're going to discuss being molested as a child. It was by the stepdad.
It was by the stepdad, yes. Okay. Me and my brother have a different dad. Everybody else has the same dad.
Okay. So one dad for the oldest 2 children. For
correct.
Your mom, and then the next 6 were with when she was married to your stepdad, and they're his children.
Correct. Yeah. And we didn't find this out until we were all adults and had our own children. That's a whole nother thing.
In addition to talking about the horror of your childhood and dealing with the stepdad, another topic you wanted to get into was also just the topic of family secrets.
Yeah, yeah.
So let's delve into that just a little bit. So when did you find out that this stepdad, the man who you kind of grew up with as your father figure, when did you find out that he wasn't your biological father?
I was at least 32 or 33, and I'm 54 now.
Okay, so this is just a little over 20 years ago was the first time you found out that this man who did these horrible things, the man who you were looking at as your father growing up,
yes,
that actually he's not your biological father.
And he's not my biological father. But we were never told that.
That was a family secret.
That was a family secret, yes.
But you and your older brother have a different last name, grew up with a different last name from the other 6 siblings.
We did, and we thought that was because my mom had us before she got married to him. So we just figured it was just her maiden name, and it never got changed, when she got married. So it didn't seem odd to have that my mom's maiden name, because she got married after she had me and my brother.
Why have you chosen to share your story now?
Well, number one, I feel like I have a platform to share it on. My family really wants this kept quiet. I think that's a fair thing to say. They really want this kept quiet. I think I'm just tired of that. Yeah. But honestly, anybody who knows me knows this isn't going to be anything new. If you know me and you've been in my life at any time, this isn't going to be new. This is not something that I shied away from talking about.
You and your family are pretty close, is that fair?
Yeah, we're really close, yeah.
And also, though, when you speak of your family, of course, you're speaking about your siblings.
Yes.
But the siblings have children, and it's a pretty big group.
Yeah, it's a big group. Yeah. I mean, most of my siblings have children of their own, my nieces and nephews. So there's a lot of us. It gets very loud.
What's your impression about how much this has been shared and talked about within your family? And let me put one qualifier on there: in an honest, completely transparent way.
It has not. I think in the sense that it's been shared and that people know in my family is that something happened to Tanya, and it involves this guy. And even when I tell them that I was molested by him, I don't know if I think in their minds they're thinking it was a one-time thing. This was at least 10 or 11 years that this went on. And that level of detail, they definitely don't know or don't want to know.
Your stepfather was married to your mom for a long time.
long time.
He's no longer with us.
No, no,
Yeah.
he passed away. I don't know how long ago. I mean, it's been at least 3 years.
Yeah, 3 years sounds about
I
right.
think that's fair. Yeah.
Of course, some people watching this, I'm sure they're questioning, whether or not it happened, whether or not it was admitted
Yeah.
to. What's the
I want to
status
be
of that?
clear. He had totally admitted to this to my mom. So, and everybody in my family knows he admitted this. So I'm not saying anything about somebody who's passed away that doesn't know about this. He totally admitted everything. It's been made clear to my family that he admitted this.
So these aren't allegations. These are facts.
No, these are facts. The only thing that is going to be new today is, like I said, the level of detail. Like all they know is that he molested me. That's it.
When did he admit this to be a factual thing?
Yeah, so what, 12 years ago or so? Probably,
2009,
yeah,
2010?
yeah, 2009, 2010. It came out that he had done something else awful involving someone else.
Not one of your siblings.
Not one of my siblings, no. But it involved a family member, and it was awful. And my mom confronted him about it, and he admitted it. And then at that time, she proceeded to ask him about me, and he admitted it.
Now,
However, I want to point out that I had told my mom twice while I was in school, so two separate occasions. I think once I was maybe almost in middle school, and the second time I was definitely in high school, and the third time I was an adult. So I had already before that had told her that this had happened 3 times.
and what did your mom do when you told her those 3 times?
Each time, especially when I was a kid, she told me, no, this couldn't have happened because he's a man of God and he's involved in the church. I think he was like some deacon or something of that level in our church. But I specifically remember he's a man of God, so he would never do that. So no, you're lying. So that's what I heard twice while I was in school. When I was an adult, she just basically said, pretty much like we've already kind of been through this, and he says, no, it didn't happen. So I don't know how that conversation went with him. I would imagine it was something like, this is what Tanya's saying about you. I know it's not true because you're a man of God, and I envision him being like, yep, that's right. God's children don't do that. But this last time when that awful thing happened, and she said, well, all those times that Tanya said this, is that true? She said she asked him point blank, and he said, yes, she was telling the truth.
How did it make you feel when your mom?
Pretty shitty. Yeah, pretty shitty. Yeah. So to give you some perspective a little bit, so when I first told her and I heard, no, he's a man of God, blah, 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 no. So I'm like, fuck, right? So the next time, years later, when I bring it up again, I'm still in school, I'm still living in her house, and I'm a little bit older, and she has the same response. This time was he was very manipulating with this second time that I told her, because he came in my room and basically said that I needed to write an apology letter to them, basically saying like, the devil tricked me and I just made that up and blah, 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 and all this stuff. Because he was basically like, if you don't write that letter, like, your life here is going to be hell. My life there was already hell. So I was like, oh my God, my life is going to get worse than this. So of course I, drafted a letter and wrote it. And of course, my mom comes in, oh yeah, we forgive you for, we blah, 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 and years later, when I'm an adult and I tell her this, and one of my brothers at that time, he's an adult as well, when she didn't believe me, and he comes over and talks to her without me and basically says, how can you not believe Tanya, blah, blah, blah. She literally they both go, and it's like they go to a drawer. So mind you, the letter that I wrote was years ago. I was probably a freshman in high school or going to be a freshman in high school. Now I'm like, almost 30 probably. Like I'm probably like 27 or 28 when I tell her again. And so my brother is probably around the same age because he's a year older than me. He goes to talk to her and says, I cannot believe that you guys don't believe Tanya. Why would she lie about this? She's an adult and blah, blah, blah. They both literally go to a drawer and pull out that letter that I wrote when I was in school. It was almost like it was their insurance policy. So that letter was so easily accessible. I mean, can you go and pull out something you had from high school? It'd take you a minute. Even if it's something you saved, it would take you a while to find that. They literally went to the drawer, pulled it out. Nope, she wrote this. I couldn't believe it when my brother told me that.
Well, yeah, you would keep.
First of all, I couldn't even believe they still had it, but that was so easily accessible.
Yeah, well, you would keep it handy if you anticipated you might need it again at a moment's notice.
Yes.
Help me understand. How old were you when it started and when it stopped?
So when it started, I know I was in elementary school. I want to say I was maybe somewhere between the age of 5 and 7. Like I know it's somewhere in that age. I think it was like maybe 6. I think I was like 6, and I know exactly how it started. So my family and I would watch wrestling on TV. So that's the days of, like Kevin Von Erich, all the Von Erichs and stuff, if somebody's like old school and remembers TV wrestling. So my family would he would like to like wrestle with like me and my brother and even like, my sisters or whatever. And we just pretend like, oh, I'm the champion. We'd even like make little belts for us to whoever won. And I remember he was wrestling with me and my older brother at the time. And I'm like maybe 6. And I'm pinned down, and he has his hand under me, and he starts touching me. And I remember like thinking, what the hell is going on here? Like I remember thinking, again, I'm 6. So I remember thinking, this doesn't seem right. Something seems wrong about this. So that was the first time it happened. And so then after that, it happened again when we were doing the same thing. And then it just continued from there.
Okay. And when you say touching you, obviously touching you in a place that you shouldn't be touched.
Yes.
And then when did it end?
It ended when I know I was in high school. I was literally like on the brink of just losing it. I must have been maybe a sophomore in high school, I think. I was involved in like band and choir and everything. So I remember I was involved in choir, and I told my choir teacher that I'm going to go upstairs, and my plan was to just lock myself in one of the rooms upstairs in the little kind of choir hall or whatever. And I went up there and locked myself in there. So she came up, and there's a glass so you could see me. And she says, what are you doing in here? And I was like, I'm not coming out. I was like, so if I don't come out, like, will you send the cops or something? Because I thought like maybe I would get in trouble for being locked in there, and, like the cops would take me and I'd get to spend the night in jail. Because that would be better than going home. So I literally like let her in. I kind of told her what's going on. Now, this is what is actually like kind of weird, is that when I told her that it's because of my family life and some inappropriate things are happening at home, I didn't really go into detail with her. Her face was just like, oh yeah, well you stay. She was pretty much like, you stay in here as long as you want. Nobody's taking you home, right? Kind of thing. And I was like, oh good, it's great. Maybe I'll go home with her. And so then I remember hearing my mom. My mom shows up. She's in the choir hall talking to my teacher. And my mom I don't know what she's telling her, but I think I heard something like, that I'm making up stuff because I wanted to go somewhere and my mom didn't want me to go, so that's why I'm doing all of this. So somehow she convinced that teacher that I was lying. And so then I go home. And I think at that time I ended up, I think I had called my grandfather at that time and was basically asking them if I could come live with him. And, of course, they were like, yeah, you can come live with me, blah, blah, blah. So I'm not sure what happened, but I feel like my grandmother called her, and I don't know what she said. I don't know what was said to her. I don't know what was said to him, but it didn't happen again after that. And maybe just because I made such a big deal about it, and now I'm kind of telling this teacher who, and I don't know if they kind of thought like, oh shoot, like she's gonna go start telling other people now, because that was the big thing. Like they wanted like everybody to view our family like we were like, some fucking Leave It to Beaver like perfect family kind of thing. Like that was the thing. Like no, keep everything in the family. Don't let anything get out. So I think the fact that I had told that choir teacher, and then now I'm telling my grandparents that I don't want to live there, now they're probably thinking, what the hell is going on in that house, right? So that was I think for them, it was way too much. And so, but it worked.
So from that point, it was over.
It worked, but there was still like a lot of manipulation. So like he would, if I'm like doing the dishes or something, and then he would walk by me and just basically say, well, I guess our fun time's over. Like he'd say something like that. You've been talking too much, so now our fun time has to end. Like he'd say little things like that. It was just really like manipulation. And it was just gross. It was gross.
We're talking about something that was ongoing for give or take 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And when you would bring it to the adults in the family, you would get dismissed and kind of shot down.
Right.
And then ultimately made to write this letter.
Right.
During this approximately 10-year period, if people weren't going to believe you when you told them about that,
mm-hmm.
were there any other opportunities, any other signs that they could have seen that would have let them know that this guy was up to no good?
Yeah.
Like what?
Well, so ever since I can remember, like even when this whole thing started, you guys are going to think this is like so crazy because it's so fucked up. He took a drill and drilled a hole in our bathroom. So we only have one bathroom. Drilled a hole so you know the little thing where like a key goes. So right below that, he drilled a hole that's like in a square box, so he could look through that bathroom door. And you might be thinking, what? Did your mom let him do that? Well, but everybody knew this. Like this is not. My mom lived in the same house. It's like how like literally I don't understand. He would look through there and watch us. And so we had, a bathtub. We didn't have a shower. It was a bathtub. And I remember when I would go in there, I would put like a towel over the doorknob to cover like that hole up. And I would be bathing. And then all of a sudden I would see like this thing come through that hole to knock the towel down.
Like a screwdriver or something?
Whatever it was. I don't know what it was. A stick, a screwdriver, whatever it is. Like and I could hear it like kind of clicking around, and to where it like he would knock the towel over so that he could watch us. So I'm sure he watched all of us, like probably even the boys. But it's like, why the fuck would you drill a hole in the door? Like that's fucked up. And everybody knew that hole was there. I remember my stepsister, Gwen.
She's a little bit older.
She's older. And she is Clifton. Just say his name. His name's Clifton. I remember her talking to both of them, like my mom and Clifton, and basically saying, y'all need to fix that. Like, why do y'all have that? Blah, blah, blah. Like, Gwen's always just been very vocal. And I don't remember, like, what they said. I don't remember, like, what was said from that, but it never got fixed. It never got fixed. I remember as a kid, new siblings being introduced to us. Like, oh, Clifton had this girl with somebody else before he got with your mom. And then I'm thinking, how did he have her before he got with my mom when all these kids are like the same ages? Like we're all the same ages. And just like they would just keep popping up, another one, another one, another one. Like they would just keep popping up. And there were just like so many things. He like literally took like naked pictures of me as a kid and sold them. I have no idea who has those pictures today. He sold them because he came and told me, here's your cut from those pictures that I sold. We need to do that again because that brought in a lot of money.
You say naked pictures, like
Naked, yeah, naked. Because he had me. Like at first he would have me and one of my sisters like pose, right, in like sexy clothes or whatever, and just like modeling type stuff or whatever. And then it became like, take your top off, take your this off, take your this off, and then it's like pretty much you're naked. And then he would take the pictures and at that time it's like a Polaroid camera.
Well, yeah, you can't take those to get developed.
Yeah, it was a Polaroid camera. And I just remember, I don't remember the timing of when he took the pictures and when he came back and told me he had sold them. But he literally told me he sold them. Here's your cut. Like that brought in a lot of money. We need to do that again. And I think again, I'm a little kid. So I'm thinking to myself, I don't think that's right for him to sell those. I don't even think it's right for him to take those. Like even I just remember like as a little kid, my family is so into, we probably went to church 3 or 4 times a week. And it was a Pentecostal church, very Bible Belt church. And I just remember, and even when we weren't in church, we'd have like Bible studies at the table, like with my mom, right? Like very Christian, like almost cultish. And I remember her saying like, you can pray to God for whatever you want, if blah, 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 and all stuff. I just remember like praying so hard, like, I really want this to stop. Like, why isn't this stopping? And so it just made me very confused with religion and everything. Because I was like, why am I praying every night that this nightmare ends? But it just gets worse. It just gets worse.
Any other signs or things that people would have seen or that were also happening around this time?
We would be in their room, in my mom and Clifton's room, watching TV. And the way their bed was set up, so like if the bed is facing this way, their TV was this way, and there was like a little room here, and we kind of like sit on the floor and watch TV. And everybody would kind of fight to kind of be the ones to kind of relaxing in the bed, right? Like, and so I just remember like there were one particular time I'm in the bed, he's behind me and like in a snuggle position, so fucking gross when I think about this. And so he's like, like touching me and feeling me up, like from my breast to down here. And I just remember like all of a sudden, I feel like this penis up against me. So, and it's just like rubbing up against me, like during this whole movie. And I'm just like thinking, I said, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Like I want to get the fuck out of here, right? So then like, and at that point, it's just rubbing up against me. And I think like a day later or whatever, he was like, yeah, like, did you like that? Did you like that? And I was basically kind of like, no, that was weird. And he was like, well, we should do more. And if we do, like, I won't get you pregnant. I'm thinking to myself, Negro, you got like, even as a little kid, I'm thinking to myself, what do you mean you're not going to get me pregnant? You already have like all of these little kids like roaming around here. Like, are you fucking kidding me? So then I think I said something like, what if I said no or something? And I think he can see that I'm like seriously like fucking terrified. And so he was like, yeah, you can say no. We can just keep doing what we do. Like he was like, that's fine. I just thought you wanted to take it up a notch. Why would I want to take it up a notch? I don't even want fucking this. Like, why would I want to take it up a notch? Like, literally. I'm like, yeah. And he would just, it's just like, it's so weird to me, the amount of people we always had in our house, but nobody fucking saw nothing. Like, he would literally come in my room every day. I slept in the top bunk. There was four of us, four girls. I slept in the top bunk. He would always come in there, feeling me up, his mouth on my nipples, his mouth down there, his hands are there. And it's just like, how the fuck does nobody ever like see shit? Like, that's why I'm like, it really like blows my mind that like this happens so much, so many times a day, every day for over 10 years and nobody saw shit. That's fucking weird. That's fucking weird.
You had also mentioned when we talked about this that he was notorious also, if not touching, then gawking, staring.
Oh yeah, it was very strange. He's always staring. He was always staring. If I got to go anywhere, especially as I got older and started like, developing and stuff, and if we got to go anywhere like to spend the night or whatever, and just as an excited girl, basically being able to get out of that toxic house, no matter what like I would put on, he would like literally like just be in the room, just staring at us, putting our clothes on. Like, it's just like just weird but creepy stare. Like, it was really like, it was a stare that you knew wasn't like, it wasn't like a dad like looking at his daughter going, wow, you really turned into a nice young lady. It was very weird. It was a pedophile stare. And it was just so gross and uncomfortable. And anytime I got to spend the night at one of my family members' house away from him, I was so happy. I was literally just so happy.
Was he watching and gawking at his biological children like that?
It was everybody. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there were times when my other sisters would be taking their bath and they're in the bathroom, and I would see him just basically staring through that little hole. Just staring, watching him take a bath. My family and I, like the girls, well, even the boys, like we all like to play jacks. And if you guys don't know what jacks is, it's like the little ball, and then you have like these little, the little metal pieces, right? And like you throw up the ball and you see what you can catch. You start with ones, twos. And so he would play kind of like against us. So when we're sitting on the floor, so I remember he would always tell me like, make sure you don't wear like, make sure you wear like a little short dress. So when I'm playing jack, so my legs are open so that he can stare at me.
He told you to wear that?
Uh-huh, yeah.
He told you why?
Well, he didn't say why, but that he wanted me to wear that. Got to the point where I just didn't even want to play jacks anymore. And he would be like, and again, it would be like a manipulation thing. Like, well, all right, well, I'm going to play you. Like, he'd play like a couple of my siblings or whatever. And he'd be like, and Tanya's the best. So she's going to play, I'm going to play her last. And I'm like, I don't want to play. And he's like, yeah, you're going to play. So it would always be like, come on, like everyone. And he'd like convince them to be like, yeah, come on, let's play, blah, blah, blah. Like it literally, it's kind of hard to describe, but I know now like that it was definitely like a manipulation type of tactic.
Were there times during this 10-year period where you would push back against him and say, I don't want to do this anymore?
Oh, yeah,
And
yeah.
How did that go?
I think the first time when I was in elementary school, and it had been happening for a while, and I think I'd like basically told him like one day, like, what if we like don't do this anymore? Like, I think I even said like, would mom be okay if she knew you were doing this? And he said, no, she wouldn't. And I said, and then I think I said, well then, yeah, let's not do this anymore. He says, okay. But every time like I, would say, oh, I wanted to stop, he'd say, okay. And then it would be like a manipulation thing. Like he would be like, well, then, when you get in trouble with your mom, I won't save you now. I won't save you, or I won't get you out of it, or, just different things. Like if you want money for school lunch and stuff, like you won't have that because we don't have fun no more. And I'm just like, what the fuck? So it was always like a manipulation type thing. And was just so fucking gross. it got to be where like everything, even if he ended up doing something that was worse or seemed more awful, I was just kind of like, yeah, this is my fucking life. I'm not really surprised by this at all.
After it stopped, and eventually, of course, you get out of the house. So walk us through how your life was, or how you processed or dealt with these things after it stopped, and then continued to deal with it after you left the house. And let's get into a little bit about the circumstances under which you left the house.
We didn't have any money, and I could have done loans and stuff for a 4 year college, but I'm like, I'm not going through another 3 4 years staying here. Like that cannot happen. I will die. So I went to this trade school. It was like an executive secretarial kind of legal secretary school, and it was a 2 year program, and it was at the time one of the best ones in Dallas. I went to the dean and I was like, I don't have 2 years. I need to get out of this. I need to get through this program in a year. And she was like, okay, yeah, we've had people do that before. She says it's going to take a lot of work, but you can do it. And I worked my ass off and got out of the house, got a job. So now I'm gone. I think for a while, because this was like so awful and traumatizing, I went to a space in my head to shut it off. And I'm sure a lot of victims can relate to this. You don't want to think about it. So you're like, okay. So it's almost kind of like you compartmentalize your brain space. So you're like, I'm going to put this over here and I'm going to lock it up, and hopefully I won't ever have to open that again, right? So I have a successful job. I'm working. Everything's great. But then I'm like, of course, this shit's not going to go away. And the weird thing is there's always, let's stop for a second. The weird thing is there's always going to be little triggers for the rest of my life. And they could be the simplest thing, and something will happen and it'll click and everything just comes back like in an instant, just like that. So, I mean, for years as an adult, tried to handle it myself, which, didn't go very well. Because I even like tried to kill myself. So it was difficult dealing with it on my own. Because as an adult, when it was brought out, and my siblings knew, that was really hard because I had very few siblings that believed me. So that was difficult. And then, of course, I'm like a sergeant with my child, with my daughter, when I do have a daughter. She can't go here, she can't go there. If she saw my family in Dallas, my sister knew, like, don't take her anywhere around Clifton. Yeah, I definitely didn't want my daughter anywhere, like, even near him. And this must have been after I tried to kill myself, that the first time that I started, going to counseling and stuff. And I just remember even my first session, even just like vomiting all this stuff to my counselor. I remember her saying, good God. She was like, how? She's basically looking, because she can see, okay, you're this, you're a judge says instructor, you work here, you do this. Like, she's looking at all this like great stuff that looks awesome on paper about me. And then she's like, how are you even have been able to function all this time with that? Like, she was like, with that trauma. And I basically told her, I was like, I don't know. I said, clearly I haven't been functioning because I tried to kill myself. I'm like, clearly I haven't been doing a good job of functioning. But yeah, so I just like for years was just trying to, either compartmentalize it or try to handle it on my own. And I remember when I first I told my daughter um, my situation when Clifton had passed away. So she didn't know anything until he had passed away. So when he passed away and I told my daughter, the first thing she said was, wow. She was like, my childhood makes so much sense now. She's like, it makes so much sense.
Was it through therapy or counseling that you were able to come to terms, or how did that help?
Yeah, therapy helped. And it's so funny because like black people don't believe in therapy. They believe in church. And as you can imagine, my church stuff is very skewed because of my upbringing. Um, so, that's literally the only thing I had to turn to was therapy. But I feel like it did help me a lot because it helped me deal with it, and it helped me realize um, I wasn't the one in the wrong. Because I think for years, if anybody's watching this that has been through this before, a lot of times you blame yourself, like you literally like blame yourself. So I think from that, it helped me realize that, none of that was my fault. Um, and I think for years, like with my mom, I, I feel like I blamed her for years. Because in my mind, I'm like, how could you not know this? Like, literally, how do you because me having a daughter now, good God, if my daughter was to tell me anything about anybody, like at any time of her life, whether she's in elementary school or high school or college or whatever, there's no way my first response is going to be like, oh, well, this guy's the president of the so-and-so committee. Like, what? Or he's like this in the church. There's no way he could do that. The first thing I'm going to do is probably go to jail because I'll probably like try to kill that person. But there's no way I'm not going to come back with her with excuses on why this didn't happen to you, right? Like I'm just like that's the part that I couldn't wrap my head around. And clearly the whole hole in the bathroom, it's like how could you even allow that? And there were just other like really sketchy situations like around my house that it's just like how like how did you allow this, like literally. But I mean, I eventually through therapy had to forgive her. um, but yeah, for a long time it was hate I had towards her. Yeah, I can say that with confidence. It was hate. um, because my childhood was awful. It was hell. And how I know, like my family just sweeps, like I said at the beginning of the video, sweeps things under the rug. This wasn't even that long ago. I want to say this was like maybe a year ago, and we were all together. And it's very rare that we're all together at the same time. Um, and I just remember I just recently told another close family member about this just the other day. Um, so we're all together and we're playing some game or whatever. I don't even know what it was. And you had choices. Like you could either like do this, whatever this was like really, really bad, right? Like I don't know, like get run over by a car. Like it was something awful. Or you could go back and relive like your childhood again, right? So then we're going around the table and everybody's saying, yeah, I relive my childhood again. Yeah, definitely not doing that. They get to me and I immediately say that other thing. And I said, because there's no way I can go back and relive my childhood. I was like, there's no way that's happening. And everybody at the table gets quiet for a second. And then it's the next person. What would you do? Like, it's just like, but that's just like a little snippet of why I'm doing this video, just so people will know, like, it's not to, gain views or whatever. I don't care. If 3 people look at this video and it helps 3 people, amazing. But it's mainly for me. But That's the level that they're at. Um, yeah, it's just basically like, oh yeah, that something awful happened to her. Oh, that's so sad. Okay, now what are you doing? Like literally, that's like my family in a nutshell, right there, with this situation. So she basically told all of us that he, confirmed it. But then it's like I still have siblings who are like, oh, he's the greatest person ever. He's just, this, or nieces who think he's like the greatest man on earth. And what gets me is like a lot of these people think like, okay, that was then in the past. He's a totally changed person now. This is when he was alive. He's a totally changed person now. He never was a changed person. All the way up to his death, he was never a changed person. And I know this in my soul. Um, he just wasn't. He wasn't. And I have confirmation from other people that, that he was still like doing gross stuff even when he was in the hospital, like on his last deathbed, still being like gross. So, so yeah, no, he never was a changed person. So when I see posts, that they're, oh my gosh, missing the greatest person ever, still missing you. You were so awesome. I'm just like, I literally like want to throw up because I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Like this guy shouldn't even be like put on any kind of pedestal with all of the filthy stuff that he did. He literally should have spent his life in prison.
Have has your siblings over the years, have they approached you to be supportive or to inquire like, what can I do? What happened? Have they asked details?
No,
Okay,
no.
so tell us about that.
No, they haven't asked details, and I honestly don't know if any of them will watch this. I will let them know that I'm making this for sure, but I don't know if any of them will watch it. They've never asked any kind of details or anything. I do remember as an adult when I told my mom that this had happened. I do remember I had some brothers that were not very happy with me, um, and pretty much thought like I was lying. And they didn't come to me and say, they didn't believe me until after all this horrible family stuff came up and it was confirmed. Then, like, one of them, I remember calling me and saying, like, man, I was wrong. Like, I'm so sorry. Like, he apologized. And I appreciated that because that was a rough time to go through that without any support. Um, but no, none of them have ever asked for any level of detail. Like, they know as far as they're concerned, like they're probably like, oh well, he touched her on the butt one time, or he did this one time. That's in the past. Like I'm sure that's how like they all feel, but yeah, that's definitely not the case. And they've never asked for any detail. I don't think they wanted to know because why would you want to know something about somebody that you keep up here on a pedestal and you think is like the greatest person ever? Like they don't want to know. That's just basically how it is. And I think that's kind of like today. I just think they know I went through something awful, but I don't think they really want to know like what it was. I don't think they want to know the details.
And of course, for 6 of your siblings, this is their dad.
Yeah, for 6 of them, it's their biological dad. Yeah. Like at the same time, you kind of have to like look at it and be like, okay, why would she be lying about this? Like seriously, like why would she lie about this? To, live in this hell by herself with no support. Why would she lie about this? Like they don't even I don't know at the time when they didn't believe me what they thought. Like I don't know why they thought. I don't know if they thought I was just trying to get attention. So I wouldn't even social media wasn't even like a thing then. Like for me it wasn't. So I don't know if they thought like I was just like making up stuff or I literally don't know. I don't know what was going through their head. But it's amazing to me how like nobody believed me until this amazing man actually admitted it and said that he did, that it was true.
Have you forgiven your mom?
I've forgiven my mom. I don't have a super close relationship with her, but I don't have a super distant relationship with her either. But I've forgiven her. But like I said, I used to really live in a place of hate, with her because I'm just like, why did she allow that? And why did she allow me to basically be terrorized like for years, through pretty much my whole childhood? Um, but I mean, the therapy has helped me with that, and yeah, I've forgiven her, but I still have a little bit of a distant relationship with her, and I have the best relationship with her that's comfortable for me right now.
Do you have any do you have any concerns about sharing your story at this point?
Hell yeah, I have a lot of concerns about sharing this story. I mean, I know like there's probably going to be, even if my siblings don't watch this video, there's be people that they know that will probably watch this video and it will get back to them. So with my family, it's going to be a big deal because, like I said, everything's like keep it in the family. Don't tell nobody. Keep this in the everything's like super like family secret. These evil secrets, and they're not supposed to get out type of thing. So yeah, I will definitely get some backlash. Some people might even be like, "Oh, well, she's just trying to do that so she can get, more followers or more views or get famous or blah blah blah." And I'm like, yeah, this is not the way that I would want to do that. For me, wanted to get my story out there for healing for me, and honestly, I really really don't care what anybody else thinks.
Have you thought about anything you want, maybe people who don't know you, people who aren't family members or family friends, but people who just come across this video and they hear and they learn your story. Um, is there anything you want to maybe say to them or leave them with?
I think one of the main things is like you can see people like being successful, having a great time, looking, appearing as though they have a great life. But one thing you can't see is people's trauma, right? Whether it's recent or past. Like that's, I think, just super important to know is that you can't physically see people's trauma, and especially like their past trauma. I just decided I really needed to get my story out. And here's the other thing, like, I don't want my siblings to be like, because I'm sure they're thinking, what does she want? What does she want us to do? What does she expect us to do? Um, and I don't expect to have bashing sessions about Clifton. Like that's not what I want. But what I do want is for them to be heard, and for them to really acknowledge that this awful thing happened to me. I'm not trying to take away their memories or their good memories of with him, right? But at the same time, they need to acknowledge that this was not the perfect person that they thought he was, and they need to acknowledge that like he was a pedophile, like he literally was a pedophile, and he should have been in prison. And I just need them to acknowledge that. I don't need them to like sweep it under the rug, and then they're showing me pictures of him and shit like that, right? It's like that's the stuff my family does. Like as if and showing me pictures and shit as if like I'm supposed to be like, "Oh my gosh, I miss him so much," right? Like that kind of stuff. Like if you acknowledge that and know and hear me that this happened to me, there's no way you're going to show me a fucking picture of Clifton, right? That you have or that you found or something. Like, "Oh my God, I forgot about this picture." Like, there's no way you're going to do that with me because you've heard me and you've acknowledged what I've went through. So that's really like all I want from them. I don't want a bashing session about Clifton. I don't, I want them to know and hear me and acknowledge, that this awful thing happened to me and this person was not a great person. What I do want to say to my siblings, like I said, most of them have their own children now. I really want them to picture their own children coming to them at 6 years old, or 7, or 8, or 9, or 10, or whatever, and telling them that somebody did this to them. Like, I just want them to like think about that for a second. Like, one of your kids came to you and told you somebody that lives in your house did this to them. Would you be like, no, it didn't? I don't think any of my siblings would react that way. They would be furious, would probably want to kill that person, and immediately try to protect that child, right? I just want them to like, I want that to sink in with them just for a minute. And to know that that's an awful place to be. Yeah, that's an awful place to be, and nobody should ever be in that position.